Now, last week we started a series. We're just talking about upgrading my relationships. And last week we talked about it's complicated and really the importance of forgiveness. And while we were just talking about upgrading relationships, I shared with you a picture last week of my dream car. A Porsche 911 Carrera convertible, bright red or whatever color. If you're giving it to me, I'll take whatever color you can find. And that went up there, and we were talking about my dream car. Now, after service, somebody came up to me, and they just encouraged me. They're like, Mark, it doesn't matter. Just go for the car right now. Just go purchase the car. It doesn't matter what it costs. It doesn't matter. Do it now. And I'm thinking, well, that's going to really complicate my relationship with my wife when I go to the Porsche dealership and I write a check and clear out our savings account for my dream car. But I put that thought aside because I'm like, yeah, I agree with you, sister. Thank you for that. And so as she was talking, she's like, you have to do it now. And I'm like, okay, why? And she's like, because when you get old, you probably won't be able to bend your legs to get into it. Ouch. Probably true. Because yesterday I'm working on a woodworking project with my son Nolan, and we're clear coating a bed that he built, and I'm down on the ground just like painting it on there, and I shifted over while I'm holding a little can kind of bent down, sort of on my knees, and the next thing I know, I went flying down on the ground, laying down there trying to hold the container of clear coat that I had, and all Nolan does is just sits there and laughs and just goes, Dad, you're old. Happens. But my favorite thing about the Porsche is that the husband of the person that shared with me the idea to get it came up to me and was talking about it. But then he goes, now here's the downside if you get it now. And I'm like, what's that? He goes, you won't ever get to drive it. And I'm like, why not? Because he's like, your kids will take it. So needless to say, I still drive my 2010 Honda Odyssey with 160,000 miles on it and an air conditioner that it is not fixed. Because I don't want to complicate my relationship. Now, if I'm upgrading my relationship because I want my relationship to be the very best it can be. And one of the ways that we can really upgrade our relationships, and I wish there was a way you could just take a computer and you could just press a button that just says upgrade like we can with Windows 2010, I don't even know what we're on now, Windows 10, or however, or Linux, or Apple, or whatever, and you can just press a button that says update. Or every once in a while, if you have one of these smartphones, it'll come up and say, hey, you need to update the operating system because we want to add a bunch of features that you're never going to use, but we want you to upgrade it. And you just press a button, and it happens. Or, hey, you've probably done this before where you have a complaint that you have with cable, TV, your phone service, you name it, your power, whatever, and you call them and you talk to them, and they're like, yeah, we'd like to fix your problem, or you call the bank and you talk to them, just ask a question, and at some point they're like, would you like to upgrade? You're like, I don't want to upgrade, I just want you to fix the problem. But no, you really want to upgrade. You know, we do that, but don't you wish sometimes in your relationships you could just press a button and it was upgrade relationship? Now, unfortunately, it doesn't work that way, because to upgrade a relationship, it does take time, it takes effort, it takes grit to get in there and work on a relationship. But usually, it is worth it in the end. Now, I'm having fun building the bed with Nolan. It's been fun. He built the backboard in his wood shop, and then we built the frame and everything for the bed, and it's fun. You sand it, and you cut everything, you put it together, you stain it, clear coat it, sand it, clear coat it, sand it. You do all that, and then sometime maybe this year we'll get it up to his room and all that. It's fun to do that. But then that little bit of $100 worth of wood it took to build that suddenly becomes priceless to you because you've put all your sweat and your energy into sanding and staining and cutting and assembling and hoping he doesn't lay on it, and then you underestimated what it takes to build a bed and then it just collapses. You don't know. We won't know until it's up in his room. That's going to be kind of an exciting moment. And then the big test will be when his little sister decides she's going to come while he's laying on the bed and surprise him one day to wake him up and dives on him because she is prone to do that. But that item becomes priceless, and irreplaceable because of the effort that it goes into it. And it's like our relationships. When we put effort into them, when we put energy into them, when we put time into them, it makes that relationship so worthwhile. It matters to us. So step back a moment and think to yourself, what is valuable to you? What or who matters to you? Now, J.R.R. Tolkien wrote a series of books decades and decades ago called The Hobbit and Lord of the Rings. And in it, there was this magic ring. Can't even get mine off right now. It's stuck there. But he had this magic ring. And there was the character Gollum that loved that ring. He loved it. And he called it my precious. Because he had a very wrong desire for an object. He was in love with that object. And if you pay attention to the story, in order for him to have that object that he so loved, he murdered his best friend. Because he had to have the object. And then that character is woven through the story of The Hobbit and then Lord of the Rings, all because he is possessed with a possession ready to kill anybody to have that thing. But what about you? Step back, think about what is valuable to you. What is something that you would run into your house to rescue if there was about to be a disaster? What is something that you have stored in a vault because it's important to you? What's something that you display on a shelf? Now, in my basement at the house we moved into 5 years ago, we moved into an empty house. When it was for sale, the guy had already built a house and moved out. And we go in and we go exploring the house. And then at some point, somebody opened the door and they're like, what's this door go to? Because we weren't expecting that to our house. And then it went to a finished basement. And we're like, wow, there's even more space. And then my wife's like, we're buying the house right now. And so I'm like, okay. And so we go walking down into the basement, and as we walk in there, there's one whole wall where the previous owner had spent a bunch of money to have these really ornate shelves built down there with this special lighting on it with this perfect glow that's on the shelves. And we're like, what in the world did he have down here? We have no idea. We had no idea. We're like, he apparently wanted to display something, but we have no idea why you would build these big ornate shelves. Now, it worked out perfect for us because it's a Lego display. Because Legos are the best toy ever invented, but that's a whole other moment for me to confess my weird thing. But in any event, we didn't know, and at some point his daughter came through a yard sale and we let her walk around our house and we took her down in the basement. We asked her, what did you happen here? And she goes, oh yeah, my dad had a bunch of trophies that he just liked to display or something like that. But it's like he had this whole set of shelves just set up just to light up everything, just to display something. Because that was important to him. But what's important to you? What's something you value? Now, right here, I have one of my most favorite items. This right here is all the known sermon notes from T.M. Kimberlin. And he was instrumental in starting First Assembly back a gazillion years ago. He pastored here from 1944 till 1964. And he was my mom's favorite grandparent. And so he died in 1976. So most of you probably have never met him or even heard of him. Some of you possibly have. But this is like one of my favorite treasures. It's neat because from time to time I'll get these out and I'll just look at them. And here's a whole sermon that he did. And it was kind of neat how he did things because he used one sheet of paper and somehow he managed to type on all four quadrants where he could fold it over. And somewhere there's a Bible that he just cut up because when he was using scripture verse, he would just take a Bible and do a little sharp knife and cut out the scripture verse and stick it on there and tape over it. And that's how he handled things. And I haven't even seen the paper before used. It's like this real thin onion leaf paper. It is a neat treasure that I have. And one day I hope, I even have it all organized by year that he preached and the date that he does. And one day I hope to, if I ever get time, to create some kind of devotional book out of these. because they're interesting to read through and look at. It's an important treasure to me, so much so that I've now already scanned these 3 different times and have the scans stored in different places, because I'm like, at some point, I could lose these or they could deteriorate, but I have the scans of them to keep, because this is very valuable to me. It's great. But the reality is, though, this does not compare at all. As much as I treasure this, because it's the only copies in existence in the world is right here. But they do not compare at all to Leah Beth, to Carson, to Nolan, to Allison. Because an object can be replaced. A relationship cannot. An object is temporary. People are eternal. And I want to invest in them something that matters, that sticks around, that is valuable. And so part of upgrading my relationships is showing appreciation to people, that I appreciate you. Because what I value gets my attention. I have a neighbor that loves his truck. It's his truck, and he loves it. He washes it and vacuums it multiple times a week. It looks nice. My 2010 Odyssey did get washed last year when it rained. And one time when my kids thought, hey, can we wash vehicles? And they get out and they wash their mom's car. And I'm like, well, mine's right there. Why don't you wash it too? Okay. And they kind of sprayed it. Because the vehicle's not that important to me. Now, it was fun watching them get soaked, but that's a whole other story. But what I value gets my attention. My time, my attention, my thoughts, my money, my casual talk, or maybe glances. Sometimes even what I pray about reveals who or what I value. What I appreciate will always get special space in my life. Now, last year my wife and I remodeled our kitchen, and it's nice. We redid a whole level to do that. But this, I don't know, Nolan, can you throw those blueprints up there? This is how I would have redesigned everything in my house if I had a chance. Bedroom, a kitchen, a bathroom, and a garage. Space. Because that's how I would do things. Because what I value, what I appreciate, what I want, I will give special space for in my life. And so that's why I need to make sure that I don't take for granted who is irreplaceable. People are priceless and irreplaceable. Objects can be replaced. Now, to appreciate is to recognize the full worth of someone. I appreciate you, so I recognize how valuable, how worthy you are. It is to value someone. It is to respect. It is to prize. It is to cherish. It is to treasure. It is to admire. I mean, the Bible, our guidebook for living, even gives us an idea of how we should treat people. It gives some instructions. Here's some ways you need to really treat people. Here's some ways that you can appreciate them. One is just, Jesus summarizing the whole Old Testament. Love the Lord your God with all your heart, all your mind, all your soul, all your strength, and love your neighbor like you love yourself. Or Peter writing in chapter 2, 1 Peter chapter 2, verse 17, respect everyone and show special love for God's people. Honor God and respect the emperor. Or he writes in chapter 3, verse 8, finally, all of you should be of one mind, sympathize with each other, love each other as brothers and sisters, be tender-hearted, and keep a humble attitude. Don't repay evil for evil. Don't retaliate with insults when people insult you. Instead, pay them back with a blessing. That is what God has called you to do, and He will grant you His blessing. I mean, show people appreciation. One of the things I love to do is go to Chick-fil-A. Why? Chick-fil-A likes people. Chick-fil-A does. You can go to other restaurants where you're like, you do realize that you wouldn't exist if I didn't come here, right? And they don't care. It's like, really? You realize that you are here to serve customers and do it. But no, they don't care. But you go to Chick-fil-A, and what do they like? They're like, my pleasure. I appreciate that you're here. You matter. We are glad that you're here. And don't you like that? You want to be appreciated. You want to be valued. So I need to make sure that I'm appreciating others the way I want to be appreciated. Be the friend, the spouse, the neighbor, the customer you would like to have. Show appreciation. I mean, isn't this kind of what Jesus was saying, where he just says, do unto others as you would have them do unto you? Because this summarizes, this is the essence that is taught in the law and the prophets. This is the essence of the instructions of the Old Testament. It's do unto others the way you want them to treat you. Treat people that way. So for me to appreciate someone, I want to appreciate them the same way I want them to show appreciation to me. So one of the things I can do is I can show that you matter by serving you and getting to know who you are. One of the ways that I can just show my wife appreciation is trying to outserve her. Because my wife is great when it comes to serving our household. She loves that. And she is great at it. But one of the things I can do to turn around and to flip the script is just be like, no, instead of taking that for granted, I'm going to try to outserve you. And wouldn't that be awesome, just in our relationships with people, with our friends, with our family, that we had that mentality of, I appreciate you so much, I'm going to outserve you. Instead of taking advantage of you, I'm just going to do what I can. I'm going to outserve you. I'm going to outdo you. And wouldn't that be great if that's the kind of competitions we have? Because that would just make everything better, more valuable. I'm going to outserve you. I'm going to be a giver, not a taker. I'm going to be generous with everything. I'm going to be generous in conversations. I'm going to be generous with my finances, with my means. I'm going to be generous with my laughter, with my having a good time. I'm just going to be open and free. I'm going to do what I can to give to the relationship instead of taking from the relationship. I'm going to take time to get to know the love language of the people that I'm close to. Because one author just categorized 5 different love languages that people have, from words of affirmation, or I like to hear words that build up or encourage or strengthen, or physical touch, just being there, touching, rubbing shoulders, holding hands, getting a hug, or maybe receiving gifts. Anybody like receiving gifts? Some do more than others. Some, it means a lot to them to get a gift. Others, not so much. Quality time. Just spending time together and being around each other. Or acts of service. Doing something for the other person. But it's taking time to get to know, because I appreciate you, I value you. Because I value you, I give special space for you. I give you attention, I give you focus. I get to know who you are. So I get to know the things that make you tick. Who you are. And then I invest in those things. Because you matter to me. You're valuable to me, so I communicate that. I show appreciation by being in the moment. I'm mentally, physically, emotionally present. I pay attention. I listen. I make eye contact. I'm there in the moment. Instead of, because sometimes I can be really bad about this, sometimes I miss those moments with Leah Beth because she'll be talking to me, but then I'll be thinking about something else, or I'll be thinking about what I want to say to her when she's done talking, and so I miss everything that happens because I'm not in the moment. And so that's where I step back and I take time because I appreciate you. I'm going to give you attention. I'm going to give you focus. Just like my neighbor's out washing his truck and doing everything he can to detail it, I'm going to be that way in my relationship where I'm paying attention. I'm having eye contact. I'm listening to what you say. I pay attention to how you say it. And my wife is gifted at that. Because she will pay exactly attention to how I say something. And I'm like, how do you do that? And then you partner that with the Holy Spirit, and then I'm just done. Because it's just like she can just read a situation, and then I'm sure there's times Holy Spirit just whispers something to her or whatever. And then it's just those moments where it's just like, because she knows how to be in the moment with every bit of her paying attention. And sometimes I blow it that way because I'm not as in the moment. But doesn't that mean something to you when somebody's in the moment? Paying attention because you matter to them. I like what James writes in James 1:19. Know this, my beloved brothers, let every person be quick to hear, slow to speak. Hey, don't you wish don't you wish just everybody was slow to speak? That would solve a lot of problems if people would just slow down on communicating. And it would solve a lot of problems if we would be quick to pay attention and to listen. But be quick to listen. Quick to pay attention. I'm listening. What's going on? Moms are good at this if you have little kids around the house because they hear everything. Teachers, too, in school can be that way, too. Where they just hear everything. They know everything that's taking place. They are paying attention to that. But if we're quick to listen, paying attention when we're having a conversation, I'm focused on you. I'm listening to what you have to say. I'm going to be slow to respond. Why is it sometimes good to be slow to respond? Well, it's because words have impact in people's lives. And so I want to be purposeful on how I respond. How many of y'all have ever gotten in trouble because you talk too quick? Like you said too much, too fast, in the wrong way. Probably every husband in the house can be like, been there, every day. But a lot of times we get in trouble because we're quick to speak. We're quick to share our opinion. We're quick to share our thought. We're quick to share something that we want to say. And we're like, and then we don't realize the impact of how that has impacted the person. And how that might be a smile on their face, but that word was like a knife that just cut right in deep to their heart, and it's a word that they won't forget for years or years or years. So we're quick to listen, to pay attention, to get to know. We're slow to speak, and we're slow to get angry. We're in control of ourselves. We're in control of our emotions. Because the one thing I can control is me. I can't control you. I might be able to influence you, but I control me. And self-control is a really big thing in the Bible. On one hand, it's a gift of the Holy Spirit to give us self-control or a fruit of the Spirit working in our lives, self-control. But it's also something that we have to exercise also. We can't just we can't just expect God to just give us all the self-control we need. It's also something that I have to discipline myself to do, to be in control of me. But because my relationship matters, because I appreciate you, I'm going to take time, quick to listen. I'm focused, I'm paying attention, slow to speak, because I want my words to be meaningful, and I'm in control of myself. I mean, think about this. Careless words do lead to a big mess. Proverbs 10:19, you will say the wrong thing if you talk too much. So be sensible and watch what you say. I show value by resolving conflict. Leaving a conflict unresolved communicates that you are discardable, not appreciated. So I don't let the little things become big things. A pastor I worked with really liked Song of Solomon 115, he used to say this all the time: catch all the foxes, those little foxes, before they ruin the vineyard of love, for the grapevines are blossoming. And he'd always be like, you got to stop it when it's small before it gets big. And a lot of times we allow something small and we just kind of ignore it, and we're just like, hey, it's no big deal. I can just keep it over there. I can leave it over there. It's no big deal. And we don't realize all the damage that what small is going on. And then eventually we realize it as it just becomes a disaster, but we ignore what little is going on. Don't do that. When it's small, deal with it. When it's small, work it out before it becomes big. Have you ever thought sometimes that maybe just in a conflict, just admitting you're wrong or saying you're sorry early on probably could have stopped years and years of conflict, and years of stares, and years of awkward moments and yelling and screaming and everything else, just if you would have just taken a moment early on to do something? Don't check out in the tense moments, but work through the conflict. Because the conflict's not about winning or losing, or winning or revenge, but resolution and restoration to bring about unity. I'm going to work it out. There's a problem, we're going to fix it. If you've hurt me, I'm going to go and I'm going to privately talk to you. I'm not going to make a big ordeal out about it, because if I get a whole bunch of people involved in it, it just becomes a mob, and you can never satisfy a mob once a mob gets involved. If I get a bunch of people involved in the situation, they're not going to be able to let it go when I've let it go, because it wasn't their offense to begin with, but now they're holding on to my offense that they can't easily let go of. But if I have a problem, I'm going to go to you and talk to you. If that doesn't work out, then I'm going to step back and I'm going to take a trusted individual to go with me to talk to you about it. If that doesn't work out, then maybe we make it a bigger ordeal. But most of the time that stuff can be resolved early on without involving a lot of people. But that's if you've done something to me. But on the other hand of things is sometimes I might have purposely or inadvertently done something to harm you, but I can't ignore that and just say, well, they have an issue, I'm going to let them get over it. I can't just be like, psh, that's their problem. They messed up. I don't know what their problem is. They can get over it. I can't even have that attitude, because Jesus is like, hey, if you're there praying, if you're there seeking my face, if you're there worshiping me, and you realize somebody else has the issue with you, stop what you're doing in that moment and get up and go deal with that problem. Now, it's easy for us to be like, that's their issue. I didn't do anything. But no, you want to bring about resolution. You want to bring about healing, because you want to be in unity and in peace. And so you get up and you go and you resolve the situation. I want to fix it. Because when it's fixed, we're in unity. And when we're in unity, we're better able to work together to accomplish God's mission. When we're not in unity, we're not going to do that. When we're not getting along, it's going to make things awkward. So I'm going to work at it. If you've harmed me, I go and talk to you. If I've harmed you, I go and talk to you. But we work it out. Because you're priceless and irreplaceable, you matter. So I take the time to do that. I communicate value with my words and my actions. I say it and I show it. Sometimes that might mean I use words. I tell you, I appreciate you. You matter. It might be writing it down. I get a card. I get a note. I write it down and I'm just like, man, I appreciate you. I'm so thoughtful that you did that. I write it down. I might get a gift. I do something that communicates, I appreciate you. You matter. You know, there's that old joke that says, about talking about I love you. And sometimes we can be like, you can get this crusty old guy who's just like, well, I told her I loved her when we got married. If anything changes, I'll tell her again. I haven't said I love you in 45 years because I told her then. We don't want to be that way. But we want to express appreciation regularly. You matter. You matter. Because the last thing we want to do is communicate inadvertently that other things are more important to us than the people around us. Things can be replaced. People can't. Objects are temporary. Souls are eternal. And so we want to invest in people and love people and encourage people and appreciate people. Because even the objects that you so love, rarely in the future will you still have that same affection for the objects. Because something else will have replaced your adoration. So we want to step back, though, and show that appreciation and love to people. So make it your goal to out-encourage, to out-value, to out-appreciate the other person. I'm going to encourage you more than you encourage me. I'm going to appreciate you more than you appreciate me. I'm going to value you more than you value me. I'm going to do everything to raise the bar for how much I value, appreciate you, everything. Don't assume your way out of making an effort. Well, they're just not going to respond if I do this. They're not going to work it out if I go to them and say, I'm sorry. They're not going to do this. We can assume our way out of doing anything. We can make excuses all the day in the world to get out of doing something. But step beyond that and just be like, you know what? I'm not going to assume my way out of this, but I'm going to make effort. I'm going to make effort to work on a problem. I'm going to make effort to just show appreciation. I'm going to make effort to change how I do things, to change how I approach things, because I appreciate you, because you're valuable to me, because you're priceless and irreplaceable, and I want to upgrade my relationship so that it's the very best thing that it can be. Just do life together. Just do life together. Do faith together. Have adventures together. Make memories together. That's how we show appreciation, is just being with each other. Time, energy, attention. Fixing problems. Bringing out the best in each other. And those make the best relationships ever. They're lasting. And they're rewarding. And they're beneficial. Because the last thing I want to do is end up at the end of my life alone. Because I didn't value the people that were around me. And I held on to things that didn't matter. But there's something about it when you get to the end of life and you just have camaraderie and friendships and people that love you and that you love and relationships that matter. And it's stuff that we can all do today. We can show appreciation for the people we love. We can invest in the relationships and take them to the next level to bring out the very best in our relationships with people, because we want to fill heaven with people. And we want to accomplish God's mission. And we can do it together better than we can do it alone. And when people feel loved, then they feel secure. When people feel secure, you're in it together and you can accomplish great things together, no matter what it is. But we want to fill heaven. And so we appreciate and we value each other. We bring the very best out in those relationships. And then it's awesome.